Welcome to the SBCA podcast, Component Connection, where we explore the people, ideas, trends, and innovations shaping the structural framing industry. Regardless of how you touch this industry, we're glad you're here. Enjoy the episode.
Welcome to this episode of Component Connection. My name is Abby Langenberg, Director of Business Development for SBCA, and I will be your host for this episode. Joining me today is Talia Montrose from SBCA as well, and we're going to talk a little bit about SBCA chapters and what they are for SBCA. Welcome, Talia. If you want to just take a moment and introduce yourself and tell us what you do at SBCA.
Hi, Abby. Sure. Thank you so much for having me. So I'm Talia Montrose, and I'm on staff at SBCA as a membership coordinator where I work primarily with chapters. My role is really focused on helping members connect with each other outside of big national events like BCMC and our OQMs, especially at the local level. My role is really focused on helping members connect with each other outside of our big national events like BCMC and our OQMs, especially at the local level. If it involves bringing people together, creating space for conversation, or helping members feel more connected to SBCA in their local state or region, that's usually where I come in.
So tell us a little bit about what your day-to-day looks like working with SBCA chapters.
That's a great question. I work very closely with our volunteer chapter leaders across the country. And what I really love about that is it gives me a super clear picture on what members are dealing with day to day. I hear what's working, what's challenging, and what people want more of. And that's not always the same thing. Day to day, that work is really hands-on. Sometimes I'm helping coordinate meetings. Others, I'm talking through topics, formats, agendas, how to balance education and discussion. Other days, I'm working with groups that want to restart a chapter that's been quiet for a while. And a lot of that really starts with listening, understanding why things slowed down, what members need now, and how to rebuild that momentum in a way that feels realistic and sustainable. So all in all, my goal really is to make the administrative side of the chapter very easy on the volunteer chapter leaders so that they can focus on what matters most, which is leading the chapter.
So it sounds like you get a pretty good beat on kind of what's happening in the industry in a lot of different regions in the country. So kind of following that, why are chapters such an important part of SBCA's overall mission from your perspective, where you kind of interact with them every day and get to see maybe the more detailed pieces of different markets around the country?
From that perspective, I like to think of chapters as the heartbeat of SBCA, and they make SBCA's mission really tangible to me. In a lot of ways, chapters are a bridge between SBCA as an organization and SBCA as a community, because the chapters make SBCA really accessible to a lot of people. They create space for relationships, trust, and learning amongst local peers. So that's really super valuable in business today. When chapters are strong, members feel more connected to SBCA and the industry as a whole.
So for listeners who are newer to SBCA or maybe just unfamiliar, how would you explain what an SBCA chapter is?
When I explain SBCA chapters to someone who's newer, I normally start by saying that they're a local or regional community within the larger SBCA network. They give members a way to stay connected throughout the year without having to travel far or take multiple days away from work. Chapters meet in a more local setting than national events, which makes it really accessible to folks who wouldn't otherwise be able to travel to a national event that's further away. What's also important is that chapters are very member-driven. SBCA provides structure and support, but chapters aren't one size fits all. And they do vary from state to state. Some meet quarterly, some meet a couple of times a year, some host a mix of meetings, dinners, plant tours, baseball games, or golf outings. The format's really flexible, so chapters can stay relevant into what their members actually need in their region.
So who typically participates in chapters, and who do you see get the most value out of participating in SBCA chapters?
Chapters are intentionally inclusive. You'll see owners and executives in the room, but you'll also see plant managers, designers, engineers, and sales professionals. The mix of roles leads to better conversations. different perspectives come together, and members often learn just as much from each other as they do from the formal presentations at the chapter meetings. And associate members really play an important role too, and their involvement adds depth to the discussions and strengthens relationships across the industry as well.
So I hear a lot about networking. Are there education opportunities, advocacy? Is there kind of a mix of what SBCA does in the chapter setting?
Most chapters don't limit themselves to one focus area. Education is a big piece, but so is networking, activity, open discussion. Some chapters may spend one meeting focused on a technical topic like building codes, and the next meeting there might be an activity like a baseball game. So flexibility really is key, and chapters can evolve based on what the members actually need.
So, what are the biggest benefits members get from being involved in their local or regional chapter?
The biggest benefit that members get from being involved in a chapter is connection, and not just networking in the traditional sense. Sometimes being in business can be really isolating. A lot of people are making these super tough decisions every day, and there aren't a lot of places where you can openly talk about those challenges with people who really understand what you're going through. And chapters create a space like that on a local level. So over time, members build trust with each other. They start to feel comfortable sharing what's actually happening. They can call someone up and say, hey, I've been going through this. Have you been experiencing the same thing? Are you seeing this in our market? They don't just share the wins, they share the struggles too.
So, from what you've seen, what value do chapters provide that you can't always get from the national events?
I think our national events are fantastic big picture education and industry focused events, and they focus on those types of trends. And chapters really just build upon that. So once you start attending chapter meetings, you'll see it's the same faces, you'll build trust with each other, and you'll start talking about those very real, very local issues. And the local nature of chapters allows for regional groups to get together and discuss what's happening on those levels, which might be slightly different than what's happening on a national sense. Chapters make it really easy for people to get involved again without having to travel far or commit several days from work. So people in roles who might not be going to those national events are able to attend those local events more easily as well.
I would imagine too that with that familiarity of the faces you can put with names and with different companies when you're at these chapter meetings, it makes the national events a little bit less intimidating as well, because you can see some of those people kind of mixed in at the national events, and you're not going in there flying blind and like, oh my gosh, I don't know a single person here, and I'm just going to walk in and hope to get something out of it. Have you seen that kind of when you go to the national events? Do you see people from those chapter meetings that you're like, they met at a chapter meeting and now they're friends and they get to experience these national events together and bounce ideas off and collaborate that way?
Exactly. I mean, we do see those groups of familiar faces at the national events as well. As a matter of fact, at BCMC every year, we do host a handful of chapter meetings so people can get together, do their chapter business, and then walk the show floor together. So that's really cool to see.
Yeah. So let's talk specifically about maybe the nitty gritties of the chapter meeting. So what happens at a chapter meeting, like a very general sense?
A typical chapter meeting usually includes some kind of educational component. So maybe it's a speaker, a presentation, or a facilitated discussion on a topic that members have asked for. But just as important is that conversation that follows. So members then ask questions, they share their experiences, and they compare notes. And that's really where the most valuable learning tends to happen. And many chapters also include meals, social times, and activity. That really helps break down the barriers and build relationships further. So some also host plant tours, special events, and that really adds variety and keeps things engaging and fun for everyone.
Yeah. So how do you balance the education, the discussion, and the relationship building in a chapter meeting?
Balancing education, discussion, relationship building, those are all very intentional activities. Education brings the people in. Discussion deepens that learning, and then the relationships are really the bread and butter of what keeps people involved long term.
So what role does SBCA play in helping chapters plan and run meetings?
SBCA and myself, we support chapters by helping with planning, identifying speaker, sharing what's working in other regions, supporting the volunteer leaders by coordinating meeting times, promoting meetings, crafting agendas. Most chapter leaders are balancing this on top of full-time jobs. So our goal is to make the chapter involvement feel really manageable and rewarding for them.
Mm. So if there's someone listening and thinking, okay, these chapter things sound like something I want to get involved with, they sound valuable to attend, how can they get involved with their local chapter or kind of see what their options are?
The best first step would honestly be to show up, attend a meeting, get on an email list, reach out to me and see what's happening locally. Or you can also check out our event calendar for upcoming events near you as well. If you do want to get on an email list, you can give me a call. I can get you set up with that. And if it's your first time at a meeting, there's no pressure to jump in and become a member right away. A lot of people start just by listening, and that's perfectly okay.
So what if someone's area doesn't currently have an active chapter? What options do they have?
If there isn't an active chapter in your state, there are still options. Joining a chapter in a nearby state or even helping restart a chapter with SBCA support is an option as well. Many chapters started with just a small group of 3 or more component manufacturers who saw the value and really wanted to create that space locally. So if that sounds like you, please reach out to me and we can go over a game plan and we can help support chapter creation in your area.
Yeah, so when you are looking at broadening and strengthening the component manufacturing industry, how do you see chapters helping in that mission to strengthen the component manufacturing industry?
I think chapters strengthen the broader component manufacturing industry in a few really important ways, and a lot of that really comes back to collaboration and relationship building. The industry has historically been a very relationship-driven industry, but it can also be competitive as well. And chapters create a space where members can step out of their individual companies and talk as peers. And when that happens, knowledge spreads faster and best practices don't stay siloed.
Yeah, I think that brings up a really good point because I think that, as a local business, you might feel a little bit intimidated about chapters of, oh, I don't want to go to a chapter meeting with one of my competitors, or I'm not super sure that I want to engage in that relationship because I don't know what it's going to be like. I think that mindset kind of hinders some people into joining a chapter. What would you kind of say to somebody who maybe is thinking, I don't really want to go to a chapter meeting because my competitor might be there? How have you seen those relationships in chapters kind of form over time?
I think it really starts by stepping outside of your company and meeting the chapter or being at the chapter meeting as a peer instead of as competition, and changing that viewpoint really allows everyone in that region to align with the greater industry as a whole. So you'll start sharing experiences and you'll approach challenges with a broader industry mindset rather than a company by company one.
Yeah, I think that's something that SBCA members do really well. And something that I was surprised by when I first started a couple years ago. I was like, oh my gosh, these guys are competitors and they're laughing and sharing stories and giving advice to one another. And that wasn't something that I expected. So I think that's something that is unique for SBCA members. I haven't really experienced a lot of other places. So what excites you the most about the future of SBCA chapters? And can you give us a glimpse of where you kind of see them going next?
What has me the most excited about SBCA chapters right now is the potential for new chapters on the horizon. So I'd love to see every area in the country represented by a chapter eventually. And again, if you're in an area without a current chapter, please reach out to me and we can work together to get one going.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you guys for tuning in to this episode of Component Connection. If you liked this episode, found it helpful, feel free to like and share it and subscribe on whatever podcast platform you are listening on. And with that, thank you, Talia, for being on with us today.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And we will catch you guys next time on Component Connection.
Thanks for listening to Component Connection, brought to you by SBCA. If there's a topic you'd like us to explore in a future episode, email us at podcast@sbcacomponents.com.